great William Marshall, Leo the Third rolling, not that second-rate leadership like Shah Jahan the weak or Antar the meek. We here to wage war, baby.
Hello everybody, glad to welcome you to another EvonyBites episode here, and we're going to get into I guess what I could say a much anticipated video, and that is breaking down some defense details, get into some mechanics here. I know we're casual on this channel and I brush over a lot of things. Let me tell you, I have literally K-45 explosions going off in my head worth of information that I would like to go over in these videos while I'm doing them for you. But I work really hard on focusing myself on just keeping things really casual, really simplistic, and really surface as we go through them, because there's so much in Evony that, you know, if you just went and tried to dump a boatload of information, you're going to pick up a couple. Maybe the people who study it over and over and take footnotes might really get it, but if you don't really understand each detail of Evony, why mention a bunch of them at once? It just gets a little confusing. So if we can just minutely go through Evony and understand it little bit by little bit, maybe you fully understand each piece as we go and you can form a cohesive answer. I'm not saying this is the only way to approach Evony or that I have the right way. I'm saying this way works really, really well for me. It's proven for me, and I'd like to put it out there and share it in case it might work for somebody else, and it doesn't work for everybody. Well, I just think options are key and freedom is utmost. So I put my data out there as a successful, proven way to go about things, not as the way to do them. And I'm always learning and constantly changing all the time. You'll see in this defense video and the few after this, it'll take us a few videos to get through this defense. You'll see that I'm pretty fluid, right? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I have it figured out. As a matter of fact, that's not my gameplay at all. My gameplay is almost completely molded around constantly learning more, and we'll get into that. I had a nice conversation with a fella. You know, I won't expose him too much or say too much about him. This fella here. I've had a few people add me from other servers, particularly since the last video, which was about the mass server versus server defense. That one seemed to really have piqued a lot of interest in people because you know, we all talk about getting to a place that's successful, or a hypothetical defense situation, or a hypothetical attack, or a hypothetical account setup, or a hypothetical general that's supposed to be the point you get to where you start having effective results and conquering the field and doing really well and play it at an elite level. But it's not often that you show it being done. And the people who can do it out there, some of them have some videos and they do a really good job. A lot of those guys show live play. They're not really getting into how to do it. And there's a number of reasons for that. You know, number one, I would say, and you may be one of those players, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I would say that it's because you're busy playing the game, number one. You're just playing the game. You're busy playing it. You're not really teaching other people or going and doing this. You're just playing the game. You're hardcore focused in on it. You're probably highly invested in it, financially and time-wise, and so you're focused. So your bandwidth is taken up with playing the game and playing it really well. So you might go in and do a video and show yourself doing that, but that's your focus. And number two, some players don't want to share it. Why would you tell everybody exactly how you're playing so flawlessly so that they could do the same thing on the field against you? Thirdly, understanding how to build an account really well, or accidentally building one, or funneling enough resources into one that you just inevitably become an amazing account is not the same as being able to convey that to someone else or explain exactly how you did it. And I'll be honest, as a player who's played since 2009 on PC, messed around with Age 1, hated it, played Age 2 a lot, did really well at that, and have been on mobile for a long time. I really understand Evony. I have to say, I fall into none of those categories, first off, because I'm kind of over Evony, to be honest with you. I guess I would say I'm a little bit retired. I'm not that energetic about necessarily getting out there and playing Evony too much. I don't really battle anymore. I don't consider myself really necessarily having enemies. The guys I fight against on my server are my friends. You know, we hang out, we chill. Yes, we fight, but we also hang out. So I don't really have a lot invested in Evony anymore. I have a lot of fun with it. I've learned a lot, and I would like to just now give that information over. Where a lot of guys just are busy doing other things, and a lot of guys know a lot more than I do. But I'm here to share you my defense style, And this fellow right here hit me up, and we had a long chat in a private message this evening, and it was very helpful to me because it was good to get his point of view as someone who is currently running a T1 account, and he's doing it very well, by the way. His reports look fantastic. He's doing nice. He had some complaints and some things he wondered about, some questions he had, and was curious about my style of defense, why it was working so well, why I had such high stats. The normal questions anyone would have when looking at my account, which seems strange and unusual. It's not typical. And he really helped guide me on how to approach this here. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and get into generals. I think that's just the best way to approach this for video 1. So we're just going to start with the primary. Get ready for it. Everybody is going to have a mixed bag of reactions here. Some people gasped. Some people dropped their mouth open. Some people put their finger over their lips and pursed them and went, Subordinate as a main city defense general. Yes, it's unusual. I'll give you that. That could be a thing you could point out to be odd, but that would be the thing I point out to be exactly what I'm after. It is possible, ride with me for a moment, humor me. It is possible to not necessarily go out there and find a guide and try to master that guide and be as good as you can at following what that person did. That's possible to go out and do. A lot of people do that. That's fun. But it's possible, humor me for a moment, to just go out and be the one who creates those processes in which other people go teach people how to do. Now, I'm not claiming to be one of those people. I'm not teaching anyone any processes. I've never done these videos before. I'm doing them really mostly upon request. But imagine if you could, and I do imagine that I can. So for years, what I've done is instead of go figure out what people have done and try to do it well, I go experiment and try to figure out what I can do well. So what I would encourage and what I'd like to start a little fire and flame ball about in Evony again is people doing that. People going out and sort of adventuring and breaking off on their own again and saying, hey, you know what? I don't want to build that defense perfectly. I want to build mine. And the method by which I build may assist you in doing so because it's kind of wide open. It's not like, hey, you got to get 1, 2, and 3 in A, B, and C, and then you're there. There's really no there. This really just becomes a fluid process by which you can mold your own beautiful account. To me, that starts with picking a strange general. And do I pick a strange general just because it's strange? No. I'm going to be flat frank with you because I think that's the best way to be in this game and in this guide. I picked Subordinate for 2 reasons. I'll give you the less interesting one first. He's the first great general that I got, and he was brand new when I started in the server, and I needed a really good general. I didn't have a lot going in investment right at the beginning. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and I figured Subordinate was a safe attack or defense general, and it couldn't hurt to invest in him. So initially, that's where he came from. Let's be frank. It was that simple. Now, the naysayers who scoffed when they first saw Subordinate went, I knew it, exactly. Some stupid reason that this moron put Subordinate on the wall. Now, I'll tell you why I stuck with Subordinate on the wall and why I still have him. And we'll pop over to a report here in a second for those who haven't seen that. We'll go a little more in-depth into it and see some of his results. But no, I stuck with Subordinate because his specialty here does something very key for me, and it's a particular way I like to build defense. So what do we have here is increases range troop attack by 40% and increases range troop defense and HP by 20% when general is leading the army. So on a surface level, those who don't understand how the general wording works is leading the army, in essence, you can think of it this way, is anytime he's engaged. So in a sub-city, on the wall, out attacking, defending in a city, reinforcing, sitting in a tile, it's anytime he's leading the army, because if the army's engaged, the army fights, and the army doesn't fight without a leader, and therefore he's leading. So he's active on the wall. What else do we gain from Subordinate and the specialties here? Stacked on top of the 40% attack and 20% defense and HP, well, we get range troop and siege machine attack 10%, marching troop death into wounded rate 10%. Now, that's voided for me. Range troop and siege machines defense 10%, march size capacity 8%. Now, that march capacity is voided for me. We'll get back to that. Range troop and siege machine defense 20% and HP 15%. Range troop attack 25% and defense 20%. Now, some people would look at this and say, Well, yeah, that's a little dumb still because he's got a couple attributes there that are for marching only and I lose them. Okay. I would argue carry that rule to anywhere else in Ebony and tell me you're not breaking it. Often we have to sacrifice a piece of gear that might have a completely senseless buff on it. But why do we select that gear? Because what's left on it is really great. So instead of approaching Ebony from an aspect of what's negative or what don't I like about that, I'm sorry, but I'm not building my account based on boundaries. I'm building my account based on bounty. So I don't decide to do something or not do something because of some negatives that might be involved. If you play Evony, you got to understand that's freaking everywhere. It's Evony, so EvonyBites. Negativity's involved. I'm looking for the least collateral damage from the negative, but the most impact from the positive. And you may look at this and say, there's two aspects I don't get. That's great. Forget those for a moment. You know, we know there's a glass half empty. What's the glass half full here? A boatload of range. I mean, seriously, he's balls deep in range. So, is that always a good idea? It can be. And let me explain by saying, here's why I targeted him and why I thought it would be good. It's kind of a lazy approach to a full defense, which is what I run. Lazy meaning I could spend the next few weeks or months on a new server shoring up my archer portion of my defense by grasping buffs over here, getting this sub over here, this general over here, this assist right here, get these refines on here, and I could eventually build up my archer buffs where they need to be while simultaneously doing that with every other dang troop, right? So just beefing everything up, and that's fine. I've done that 100 times and that works. But this route, I decided to go, you know what? Let me just sort of smoke range out of my way. So it's powerful and it's there. It's kind of where I want it because this guy meets all the P's and Q's for me. And then I'm sort of done with archers. Now that's the lazy portion of it. But the portion that makes sense in that is now I can fully focus on two other troop types. And I say two because F cavalry. I'll get back to that. They have a purpose. Again, I know you're scoffing at me. Bear with me. But in my particular situation, F cavalry. So that leaves me with only siege and ground to really focus on now. All right, fair enough. You get my point? Bear with me and you'll see why that matters. So continuing on with Subutai, we get into these specialties here. Range troop attack 10%, range troop defense 10%. March size capacity 6%. Again, half glass empty. I don't care about that stat. Attacking siege machine and range troop attack 10%. Range troop attack 10%. Range troop HP 10%. Range troop defense 10%. Range troop attack 35%. Range troop and siege machine defense 25%. All troop HP 10%, all troop defense 10%, all troop attack 500, all troop attack 20%, enemy ground troop defense and HP 8%. And then we come down here and we add on range troop range bonus, ground troop speed, and mounted troop speed. Again, probably the scoffs. Okay. I tend to favor the speed. That's a different aspect that I'm going to call troop aspect that we'll get into later. We'll talk about. So let's pop into some gear here and look at a couple refines. Now, this upgraded Ak gear, I refine as well as I can, and I happen to do pretty well on a couple of these, but I don't really try to drive them hard to perfection. I want to do that with my Civ gear. But still, you can see I got a mixture here. Now, what I do is I don't mind landing anything around 1,000 plus on a static set mounted number, because I do run a supplement of T1 mounted. So I want some sprinkled in help on my T1, and you want those flat numbers for T1 because adding on 1,000 points to a super low stat on a T1 is a lot of points. Adding on 10% to a super low stat is absolutely nothing. So we want those flat numbers on those T1. And the only T1 I lean on or will ever lean on is cavalry, all right? And they are a supplement, not my defense. But to supplement them, you'll see the same representation in flat mounted numbers in here as you see me leaning on the cav. It's an even distribution, right? So you can see a quarter of it is leaning on the cav in this stat here. All right, siege machine attack 24, siege machine attack 23, range troop attack 21. I'm not going to go through all these in detail. We'll just show them to you real quick so you guys can see them. Here's a Civ gear. So I pushed in a little bit harder on this one. Kind of represented everybody a little bit here, leaning on them in a priority list how I like to have them. I like to keep everything 20 plus, you know, ideally, obviously, higher is better. 18 is where I'm starting to feel comfortable, but 20 is where I'd like it. So I just slowly creep everything up, and I keep, again, an even distribution on my focus. Focus meaning I've married everything. I don't just come in here and put a bunch on siege and a little bit on range. I have to go everywhere else and put a bunch on siege and a little bit on range, and completely keep track in my mind of how I'm organizing every single thing together and balancing that in my refines. Again, you see the cav represented with those higher flat numbers there, over 1,000. And the last sit gear. All right, so essentially everything around 19 or 20 plus is where I've achieved on those refines there. All right, so Subotai. Now, what dragon are we running on him? Do we want to get into that? I guess we'll show him to you real quick, but I don't want to get too far into that. We'll go to another general. All right. I certainly run Thebes on my defense. I think that's probably ideal for everyone. Most people, the dragons you're going to typically get, certainly probably the best way to go. Now again, you're going to see similar refines as to my gear, obviously, because that's what I'm targeting. It's what I'm doing. I have not put a lot of time into these refines. I probably should, but that's where that sits. And here's what you get at the level I happen to be at, level 13, in-city siege and in-city ground defense. Siege attack 55%, hospital 30, and obviously at this level your general has a 100% survival rate, so defense general never dies. Now when you go into talent over here, I've got this flame power on 70, which is giving a siege machine attack 47.5, siege machine defense 47.5, magic shield. I've got in-city siege machine attack 82%, in-city ground troop HP 61.5%. This is on level 75. These are expensive to push, but I tell you, in the aggregate and long run, they get pretty powerful. But you see down here at the bottom, you're talking a lot of gems, a lot of those metals, a lot of dragon stones, but worth it to get those up there. Anyway, just show you that's what I'm running on him. That's the stats that come with it. Let's go in here and take a look at assist. So what did I do on assist? What did I decide to do? So keeping with the concept of Subotai and just nailing those archers and just going, hey, let me take care of a whole bunch of boatload of that archer work over here in one fail swoop with this general, leaving me to focus on ground and siege. Okay, well then let me just repeat that process. So we come in here to Takanada, I call him Take Nada. We come in here to him. What is his? It's when general is the main city defense, general in-city siege machine attack 50%, in-city ground troop and mounted troop defense 45%. So now I've come in here and I've added mounted troop defense 45%, that being a percentage number, and me basically only running T1 cav. I don't have T14, I have very little T13 and a little presence of T12, but only T1. So that percentage doesn't affect them ideally, but I will hella take it, right? 45%. And then ground troop defense 45%. Now that I'll certainly take. So that just popped in there on my ground nice and heavy with only this stat right here already. And then on my siege machine attack 50%, that comes in and addresses it. So it hardcore addresses the two troops I didn't already address with Subotai. So in just those simple things right there, we've already come in pretty hard on the other two troop types with the bonus of the cav there. All right, siege machine hit points 10, siege machine defense 10, enemy troop attack 10%, all troops attack 6%, in-city siege machine attack 24%, in-city troop defense 18%, enemy siege machine attack 6%, and then all troops HP 10, all troop defense 10, all troops attack 500, all troops attack 13, enemy ground troop defense and HP 8% negative. All right, you're starting to see now siege and archers certainly stacking up with a nice presence for ground, just encased in the general set stats, right? It's pretty heavy in there. Getting into the books real quick, siege machine attack 25%, so there we go, another bonus on top of that. My range troop attack 25 is coming in on this guy easily, and there I grab my siege machine bonus out of there, giving even more to my siege. So between these two generals base statistics alone, it's an ideal choice, and you can see why now. Okay, all right, with these two generals right there, it's making a lot of sense. I've just now pounded archers, pounded siege, and supplemented ground with a little hint on cav, just through the natural generals of defense and assist. we come in here to these sub generals, and for keeping the video not super long, I'll try to go through these quickly and just sprinkle through and show you the importance, and then once we kind of go through what one does, they kind of repeat, so we don't have to take as long. But on Nero here, reduces enemy HP by 15% when general is leading the army. Now again, we went over leading the army. That's in any situation. So you place that general in a sub-city. The sub-city is engaged in the battle. When it's engaged, it fights. The troops are fighting underneath the general that is mayor of that sub-city. So that general is engaging the enemy troops. So when that general engages the enemy troop, the debuff is now taken off of the enemy. Buffs don't work the same. That's affecting the troops in the sub, and it's pretty much insignificant. So what you want on the sub is a debuff general to debuff the enemy troops that are being engaged, affecting the whole army. In this case, he's taking that HP 15% from all of the troops. And then on the red stars here, another enemy troop HP 10%, enemy troop HP 10% when general is the mayor, training speed in the subordinate city 10%, that's vital as well. Enemy troop defense 10% when general is the mayor, death into survival rate in the subordinate city 10%, that's vital. Enemy troop attack -5 and defense -5. So he's stacking me up on those debuffs just in his set list right there. Books, I throw on things that are specific to the sub-city. Unfortunately, not a lot affect battle other than training speed and maybe rebirth right here. They affect battle. You want to keep those troops alive so you can keep those generals alive so they can keep debuffing. Going into specialties, mounted troop HP 10%. Well, that one doesn't affect anything. I only had it on probably to open the specialty. Yeah. So the center one does give me enemy troop defense -10%. Increases troop capacity, subordinate city 36%. That's nice. But I unlocked this one to gold only to get to that one, which is enemy troop HP -7. Now getting into this gear right here, this is sexy, and you want to stack up these sets if you possibly can. Once you start getting the sets, you get 2 set. All troop attack does not affect us. We don't care about that in a sub. Ground and mounted troop attack and defense on monsters 25%. Don't care about that. That's the cup half empty. Don't care about it on a sub, but what we want to get is the 6/6. 6 pieces out of 6 in a set. Enemy troop attack -15%. That's banging on top of everything else that is going on here, because, well, let's go through these real quick. The Akbo is giving me, you can see up here in the top section, enemy siege machine attack -40%. Going down here, again, we got the same thing. Enemy siege machine attack 35%. Enemy mounted troop defense -35. Enemy mounted troop attack -35. Enemy siege machine attack -35. Enemy mounted troop attack 35. Enemy range troop defense 35. Enemy siege machine attack 35. Enemy mounted troop HP 40. Enemy ground troop HP 40. So now take all the debuff in this general alone and start adding that up. Now let's take a look over to the right. We've got Baldwin set up in a similar fashion, so you've got the same debuff stacked out on the gears over here, along with a couple red stars on him, which is just going again miles deep with the debuff stats there, as well as gaining to my survival rate of my troops in the sub, gaining me longevity. Over here we've got Yeon. Again, he's got the 6-piece set on, so I'm getting all those bonuses and all those debuffs stacked up again, all those 35%, 40%, 45%, all banging out on top of each other. Reduces enemy troop attack, all of them 10%. Enemy ground troop attack by another 30, so that's ground troop 40%. Alright, now the gear on him, I've got an upgraded set on him, but again, I've got the set, so if you go down to enemy troop attack, I get 18% for having that, the 6 of them there. And then, of course, each one of them, 42% negative on that one, 42, 48%, 42, 42%, 48%. And we've got Mark Anthony, again, stacked out with the gear. I don't have a set on him. I've got mixed stuff on there. I'll have to get to that. You know, it's always a work in progress. I'm never at a place. I'm always going to a place. Alright, he's got some range troop attack debuff on him there, and some mounted HP. Got good old Arminius here. I don't quite have the set on him yet. You know, that one random piece there. We got a set on Gilgamesh here. Really like Gilgamesh. He's pretty sexy. That siege machine defense 40% is really nice. I do a large debuff on siege. I run 800, 900 plus% debuff on siege. Typically, if I get the right defense. because I really focus on that. A lot of siege, as you probably know or don't know, are prone to siege. Siege kill siege. Siege target siege first. So you encounter a large account that looks tough with a bunch of siege. Well, maybe you can't beat him, but you smack him with a bunch of siege and you're going to hurt that dude, man. You're going to take a siege out. Well, that doesn't happen with me. I'm impervious to that. And part of that is my siege debuff. Certainly not all of it. All right, see, Sixi here. Again, is a good general address. General for subs. And I want to say to anyone looking at this, you may agree or disagree again with any of this or all of this, or sub-generals, and that's fine because there are so many acceptable sub-generals. There's so many good ones. In fact, it's frustrating. There's so many good ones. You may be sitting there trying to figure out who to use. Well, welcome to the club. I mean, you kind of just have to pick what you need. I do it based on, this is always my philosophy. What do I need? I always go ahead into battle heavy, find my holes, and fix them. I'm always morphing my account, and so I might switch a sub-gen out until I just find ideal ones that work for my account. I mean, there's no ideal set of sub-gens, just you got to play with it. But I'm doing really well with who I'm using right now, and I'm sticking with it. You know, I'm using a couple I wouldn't think I would want to use. I didn't use them for a while, but I would switch them in and out, and I mean, it's just a route I got to go. It works. Got to find those numbers. Ziska's pretty awesome. He does very nice in the sub department. That's another one I'm running. All right, who do we got here? Narcissus. Yeah, he's a narcissist. Ground troop 50%. Mounted troop defense 40. He's a beast. So got that dude banging on. I got pew pew. And we got the Barbarian King, old Wolfgar over here. For anyone who gets that reference, any readers, nerds. Reduces enemy range troop attack 30%, enemy troop defense by 10%. And that's an attack journal. Get into that another day. Alright, so those are, we're going over a majority of those generals there. That's a brief over the subgens, nice little look into the defense generals. Now what else is there? Alright, so we have the Council of State Generals. I mean, this is a minor thing, but hey, it's counts for defense in general, so let's take a look at it. When you get these mayors, you get to assign them in here and then level their position up, and then therefore leveling up the effectiveness of the buff. Well, we'll go over here and take a look at this. You can see by having this general on level 30 and having him placed in here, ground troop, mounted troop attack 4%, range troop siege HP 4%. Anyways, you can redo it as I talk here, but gives you all these buffs here. Now, some like the marching ground troop HP 90% obviously isn't helping me defensively, but most of this stuff here is applying defensively to my keep. So is this generals? I guess. So I thought about whether to show this or not in the video, but yeah, these generals are placed in a position and they are adding quite a bit of statistical numerical changes to my defense. So this is something else you can go into, and something that I certainly do to try to just pack out those details, add a little bit more with every general that I can. Let's go in here and look at some duty generals, ones that might actually be doing something. I have some very inappropriately placed ones, but Ban Chow. So by having him in place, obviously we've got some debuffs going on here, and some in-city buffs. So pay attention to those duty gens. Also, you can come in here and you can do some refines on duty specific gear, which also helps you defensively. You can see it's stacking me out with some stats here, and I've not gone in and intensively done these. Honestly, these gear pieces are newer to me, newer to Evony, and I haven't gone in here and intensively just hammered these out. That's probably one of the next things I'll do, but certainly got to go in and pop something on it. The numbers aren't near as high, so there's not as near as much net. But dude, every percentage counts to me. You squeak out 1% 10 times, you squeaked out 10%, and I'm a desperate, hungry motherfucker. So I'll take every stat I can get. Anyway, these benefits are pretty nice. This dude right here is pretty cool. Zhang Zia increases ground troop attack by 10% and ground troops defense and HP by 15 just by putting this dude on. And then you got this star one right here, in-city troop defense 15 and HP 15. I mean, this is, you know, just the stuff we're looking at right now. It's just getting deep, man. You know, in statisticals. So looking at his specialties here, ground troop. Come on. Ground troop. Ground troop. Ground troop. Ground troop. Oh yeah. Trivia. One of my faves. So she's pretty mean on the siege and range there. Again, stacking me up pretty good. Going in her specialties, again, you're going to see range, a little bit of debuff, some siege, some range. Again, some more siege, some range. And again, all troops, very low numbers. But again, I'll take them. I'm a crackhead for buffs. Guan Raoul, she's got one little weapon on him, but he's again affecting my siege machine. And range troop. Skanderbeg, right? He's mostly just affecting hospital, but he does give us some, again, range and siege troop there. Getting us nice and fat in range and siege. No, she's not appropriately placed. Okay, again, siege machine, ground, mounted. Alright, all stacking up. All stacking up. In-city troop defense, 15%. In-city range, siege. Range troop attack defense, HP. Again, stacking heavy. Look at that again. Range troop, siege machine. Mounted troop. The trifecta. Got Honda here. No, he's not appropriately placed. Here we go. Affecting my attack anyway. He's doing nothing for me yet. Alright, anyway, nice little brush over the duties. I don't find those too exciting, but do not ignore those. They certainly pack you up pretty good. Before I close this video out, excuse me. Before I close this video out, let's go in here and let's look at some of those numbers we were talking about. Let's just pick one randomly, shall we? Alright, what do we got here? That's pretty good. That's a nice exchange here. So, you know, 1.3 billion, 1.3 billion to 770 million. They hit with Cav. Alright, interesting choice. You can see Subutai and Take Nada there at work. All right, so let's break this down. What did the stats come out like, right? So you can see I'm rocking ground troop 1231, 1479, 1220, range troop 1516, 1498, 1269, cavalry 1230, 1294, 1097. Keeping in mind I run mostly flats on those and only use low tier. And siege 1816, 1408, and 1221. We got a debuff of ground 1418, 449, 482. Range troop 503, 398, 217. Mounted negative 762, 603, 341. And siege machine 483, 242, 178. Side note, for those who don't know, you can only debuff up to half of the enemy's total statistic. So I can only debuff as much as they have, making sense. So if I'm debuffing 483, that is not my maximum. So I'm debuffing half of his total statistic right there, and it can only give me 483 debuff. Since they attack with Cav, you can see they had much higher Cav stats, which allowed me to use much more of my Cav debuff, showing a higher percentage rate of it. Anyway, that's the stats I'm able to peel out, and you see it represented in what we went over. Right? I mean, the ground, the things that matter, you know, the ground, HP and defense, which to me, you know, are the best. I've got them up there decent because we did a decent address to the ground, right? They were certainly addressed. Range, we pounded pretty good, and you can see it's pounded pretty good here. Mounted, we supplemented, and you can see it's supplemented here. It hasn't lacked or lost anything. And then we hit the hell out of siege. You saw that everywhere, and you can see it represented here. You can see the same thing down here. It's just harder to read because of it. The nature of the attack. It was Cav, so the debuffs are leaning Cav because my debuffs are so high. But you see it all represented equally to the generals I have in place. Now I want to make it clear that it's not just because the generals I have in place. I have married everything in my account, as you'll see moving forward, to also replicate what the generals are addressing, right? So I take the same path for everything in my account. I don't go over to Blazons or somewhere else and attack it a different way. I do it all the same. So you're seeing a flow of the same address I take to everything into the statistics. And by the way, for side note, this is with a 1 hour debuff on, not a max debuff. I often run the 1 hour due to laziness, and I just don't want to run the 10-minute out and be sitting there with nice fatty stats and all of a sudden get popped. I rely on my stuff running a particular way, so a lot of times I just put the hour on. But anyway, so you know how to calculate where I'm at on those numbers right there. We can pop in and look at the battle detail and what came in. Anyways, to give you a better idea of that, you can see they sent some pretty beefy crap here. Overkill led it. Armageddon, which by the way, this is a rally from the last video, the mass defense, if you guys did or didn't see that. This is one of those attacks in that last bunch there that probably came in while we were filming that. I do believe it did. Again, they're just running really nice, pure hardcore cab up in here. And, you know, not bad either. These guys did a really good job at their sins. Yeah, 10.3. I mean, it really would have jacked most people up pretty good. Alright, going in here, check this out. And see for yourself, the range did a pretty good amount of damage here. Do you get down to this tier 12 siege? You're all good. Yeah, it just kind of drops off there. But you know, it's still taking out large chunks down here in these lower layers. Way down here. so you can see here the T1, it really only took out 2.5 million. I mean, it really just didn't blast a whole lot. The action happened up here at range, which is how it should happen, is they hit with cav. But I have a nice round full defense. I have a defense against every single incoming attack. They all hit roughly the same. I mean, obviously they damage different things, but I mean, the results are roughly the same in any hit I take, because I'm a diverse full defense, and it doesn't matter what you come at me with, it sort of works the same way. And I really play hard on old school foundational counters. A T1 defense, which is kind of the new way of doing things, works. I mean, I don't favor it. I really don't favor fighting it. It's kind of boring. I know a lot of people run it and it's successful and it's great. I'm not knocking it. I'm kind of jealous of it. It kind of frustrates me. It works really well. But you'll find you kind of sit there and you have one option, and certain things pound it and they kind of hurt it. There's not much you can do about it. And I like a really full defense, and working it in the way where counters actually counters. You know, you'll find in a T1 defense, me and my buddy, my new friend that we're talking about at PM before this video, you'll often find that weird things fight weird things. You know, someone will send ground and your ground hits ground, you know, your ground dies, or they'll send archers and your archers die, and like all these funny things happen. It's because you got all these gaps in it, and it messes up the mechanics and the countering of how Evony works, which is why it's successful. Don't think I'm knocking it. It's successful because it messes up the mechanics and the counters of everything, but it certainly does. So weird things hit weird things. Whereas in mine, it's true old school, and counters hit counters. So you're going to hit with cab, you're going to see the cab obliterated, and you're going to see archers killed him, and nothing really died. And vice versa on any sort of incoming troop. It's going to work true to the mechanics, because that's what I learned. I learned when the mechanics were just pure to mechanics and simplistic, and no one had figured out anything cool, new, and inventive or anything. I just mastered what was there, and it's now become a distant memory. You know, no one knows the old way to play or the foundational mechanics, and so you just don't really see the defenses often. People just aren't teaching it often. Anyway, we got into generals there. This video has certainly been long enough. I really thank you guys for hanging in there and watching it. I'm sure I missed a lot of things. There's probably more I could address. Please let me know in the comments. If you haven't noticed, I try to address those comments really hardcore. I try to get in there, answer questions in them, and take you guys' advice and questions and put them in a video form, and that's kind of what drives the channel. So please go in there and get some discussion going, and I really appreciate it, guys. I'm honored that you would take a look at my account, and I appreciate anything I can learn from you, and any data that you have to bring me, please do it. I'm hungry and I can't wait to learn. So until then, remember, we love it, but also, EvonyBites. I'm out. But I don't care.